I'm here with Carol Urry, who helps mums control alcohol with her 90-day program at warriormumcoaching.com. But Carol's got a fascinating story. So, first of all, Carol, what I want to know is how did you actually end up here as an alcohol-free coach? Because I know you haven't done this your whole life.
No, I haven't. No, I've been in the care sector for over 37 years. So yeah, coaching, really, I had an issue with alcohol. So I think moving towards that problem and becoming aware of it and then tackling it as I did, which is using, as you said, my 90-day program, which is a framework really and a methodology to tackle your thoughts and feelings around alcohol, which is the crux of it all at the end of the day. I had such success that I just wanted to help women, mums in particular. It was just such a massive transformation in my life. I've been given up. October 2019, I gave alcohol up, and my life is just unrecognisable now. Just amazing. I just can't explain unless you're on the other side of the bottle. You hear people say it, and people are like, "Really?" And it's like, "Yeah, really." But unless you've done it yourself, you don't know what energy it brings, and the good night's sleep, and the weight loss. You're not bloated anymore. Your moods are stable. There's just so much positive and things, good things in life. Yeah, picking up old hobbies, loads of stuff.
Let's rewind then. So obviously that's where you're at now. Where were you sort of like 5 to 10 years ago then before that? Like what was your relationship with alcohol like then?
My relationship with alcohol became worse over time, and often that's what happens. People build up a tolerance to alcohol and don't realise it. And for me, it's probably over a couple of decades. I started drinking, you're 15, 16, off to the local pub. My first taste of alcohol was cider, and it was disgusting, but all your mates are doing it, so you think, yeah, get in there. I joined the army when I was 22, and that's got a big drinking culture. But I wasn't in that culture really. I was, still am a Christian, and I did a lot of like church-related activities. I did a lot away. I wasn't down the pub. Did go down the pub with lots of friends. I used to do night shifts. We'd do 7 nights on, 7 nights off. So on the morning we finished our last night, we would go off to the cookhouse and get ourselves a big breakfast. And then I'd be designated driver because I didn't really drink that much. So we'd all hop in the car, and I'd probably have about 8 people in my little Talbot, and we'd trundle off down to the pub. They'd get absolutely slaughtered. I'd probably have 1 or 2, and then we'd end up in the mess, and they'd carry on. And that's probably when I would have a few bevies. But interestingly, my drinking didn't really start until I became a mum. And it became quite stressful. And I was still in the army when Lucy, when my daughter was born in 95. And I went off to Bosnia for 6 months when she was 2 years old. That was, you get dry tours, which is like no alcohol at all, and tours where the commanding officer will allow you to drink. So we had the mess. And that was our downtime. It was after the war. We were there with the engineers helping to rebuild the infrastructure and providing a provision for the locals. And I ran an outpatients department with the doctors there. So yeah, that started really with my drinking. And then I decided to leave the army. Lucy was 4 and just starting school. I was due my staff sergeant's promotion and going down to Haslar. We were living in where I am now, near Stamford in Lincolnshire. My posting was at Peterborough District Hospital, which had a military unit. And I decided that I'd had enough. So I would really want, another child. So I left in the March, became pregnant, I think it was in September. Nathan was born. And he didn't speak till he was about 3.5. He didn't walk till he was about 19 months. And it's that mum's intuition, something's wrong. And I was backwards and forwards to the doctor, and the nurse was like, no, he's fine. and he started banging his head on the floor in frustration because he couldn't communicate. Anyway, he started off at nursery, and Sally, who's a friend of the family, ran the local nursery, and Nathan was obsessed with numbers, certain numbers and colours. And she just said, there's not something not quite right. And I was so relieved to think that somebody's actually recognised what's wrong. And Nathan had a diagnosis of Asperger's, which is on the autistic spectrum, and ADHD when he was about 5 or 6. But previous to that, when he was, I remember his 2nd birthday, I was having to deal with all these emotions coming up of, you know, had I done something while he was in my tummy, you know, and he was growing there, and I just blamed myself, and I blamed myself for a long time. So that's really when my the wine witch hit, or the alcohol monster, as we like to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was self-medicating. I just couldn't deal with the stress of it all. I was, my husband was out at work, so I got to stay at home, thankfully, for the first sort of 3-4 years until Nathan went to school. So I was dealing with all the pressure of the teachers and the special education officers, the educational psychologists coming into school. They had the county council had a one-on-one worker with him. He didn't actually get a statement, which would have made life a lot easier for me, because there's funding available when they have a statement. But he's extremely bright, very bright boy. He's 21 in a couple of weeks' time now, you know. He's still learning. He's like a big sponge. He's just, I've got 2 fantastic kids, you know. I'm really blessed. So yeah, school was really hard because I had to deal with it all, really. My husband went to work, came home, and I'd just fill him in. My drinking really started, and I was probably, I don't know, maybe a couple of glasses of wine 3 or 4 times a night. Not massive, but I remember on his 2nd birthday, we used to make a big fuss of the kids' birthdays, and it would be when you're a drinker, any excuse, Rob, whether you're fed up, whether you're celebrating, whether you're on a holiday, whether it's your birthday, your anniversary, your mum's birthday, the dog's birthday, anything. When you are hooked, you are hooked. And yeah, it ramped up big time. Nathan went to secondary school, and that's when the bullying started for him. It was a small little village in his primary school, and he was doing fantastically well, really well supported. And then he went from a small school of about 150 kids to like 1,500. And he couldn't find his way around. You know, when you're on the autistic spectrum, there's a lot of challenges. He's very forgetful, and that's due to like his ADHD. What I've now found is by doing lots of reading and listening to, he's got a psychotherapist. People with ADHD are often 3 or 4 years behind their peers. So my poor boy, you know, was at secondary school at the age of 12, but really he wasn't 12 at all. He was like, well, 8, 9 years old, having to deal with all that. He was constantly getting detention because he couldn't find his way around school. He was late for class. It took me about 50 minutes to drive because he used to get the bus. It was a faith school. It was the nearest Church of England secondary school. So yeah, it caused a lot of issues, bless him. I think I had every teacher's email, and I would constantly email them. I just didn't get the support, and that just ramped my drinking up. When he got to, in fact, I don't even mention, when he got to 7, I think the stress of having to deal with Nathan and my drinking, which wasn't massively excessive at that time. Me and his dad parted when Nathan was 7. You know, I was going out after school, I would go to my friends in the village, and we would have a couple of glasses of wine, and then I would go home before my husband came home from work and make sure tea was sorted. I'd sort the kids out, and then I'd settle on the settee with a drink. And, you know, that was part of the breakup of my marriage, but also the stress of having 2 kids, but one with challenges. And then, yeah, the divorce came, and wow, that really ramped everything up. I moved out of the family home, just circumstances. That's how it was. And the kids decided to sort of spend half the week with me and half the week with their dad. Thankfully, I managed to rent somewhere in the village, so it was pretty stable for the kids. But yeah, I was a landlady at one time as well. Started and forgotten. There's all these things you think of when you look back, you know, Rob. They all contribute to building a tolerance.
And when did you realise then that? When did you decide, I suppose, that alcohol was actually an issue you wanted to deal with?
Probably, I had quite a stressful job. I was managing sheltered housing, and we had a change of senior management, and that was really hard. And I was started then calling at the pub on the way home from work. I'd met someone else by then, and we were living together. So we'd been together, I think it was a couple of years in my rented accommodation. Then I met my current husband. And I used to park up and I'd sit at the bar, and it would be sort of 5 o'clock when the pub opened. So there'd be me and one other person waiting for the door to open. It sounds awful. But if I was so stressed out, alcohol was the answer. Little did I know, now I've done all my training and learned about alcohol, that it's a depressant and it makes you feel even worse and more anxious. You know, it's crazy. So yeah, I'd have a couple of beers, and then I'd ring my husband, or I'd ring him and say I'm down the pub. He'd come down and have a beer. Now the thing is, with my drinking, when I met Clive, my husband, he used to go out on a Friday night with the lads and have probably 3 pints, and then he'd have a bottle of wine over the weekend, and that was it. Introduce Carol into the equation, and poor Clive, his drinking ramped up, but he's always been able to take it or leave it, you see, and that's the thing. You're either fixated on alcohol or you're liberated from it, and you can just take it or leave it, and that's the difference. And that is why some people can't say no, because I couldn't say no. I would come home, Clive would come down to the pub, he'd drive back. We only were probably 5-10 minutes walk, but he'd drive the car back, and then I'd go straight indoors and I'd pour myself a glass of wine and start cooking tea. And, you know, I'd get through a bottle of wine easy. And then I decided to join a wine club. That was the worst thing, because when it's in the house and you're fixated on alcohol, you can't say no. Thankfully for me, I hated that drunk feeling and that whizzing around in the room. So I always managed to stop myself. I never had blackouts. And that's an interesting subject, because there's 2 types of blackouts. You can have blackouts where you're absolutely out, gone cold, not moving, not walking, not talking. But you have other blackouts where you are actually walking, having conversations, looking normal, but you can't remember how you got home, you can't remember the conversations you had. They're fragmented blackouts, they're different types of blackouts, and they would happen to me quite often. So yeah, I've joined a wine club. That was the worst thing, because then the bottle ramped up to probably a bottle and a half. I think my tolerance was probably a bottle and a half, possibly 2 bottles occasionally. And I know, you know, some people do far more than that, but it was a nightmare. It would interrupt my sleep. I would wake up at 3 a.m, 4 a.m. in the morning, anxious, worrying about everything, my heart thumping out of my chest. I wouldn't be able to get back to sleep. It interferes with your REM sleep. You should have about 7 lots of REM, and you probably get maybe 3 or 4. I was getting up feeling absolutely rubbish, having to go to work to face the stress of work, feeling hungover. It always hit my stomach. I was always nauseous, always felt tired. And then I would promise myself it would be Monday morning, I'd had a heavy weekend, and I'd be like, right, that's it. And my husband said, well, just leave it. Monday to Thursday, Carol, just leave it. I'm thinking, it's all right for you to say that. And I would try, Rob. I would try so hard. And I'd probably get to Wednesday night if I was lucky. And I would swing by Sainsbury's, which I had to pass Sainsbury's every time I come home. And the car would just automatically, I'd be like fighting. I'd get in the car from work and say, it's Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, and I'm not drinking. And I'd do the 20-minute drive. I'd come past Sainsbury's and the car would just go oof, and take a sharp right. And before I knew it, I'll be getting 2 cold Moretti beers out of the fridge and grabbing a bottle of red wine and going home.
And was there a point then, was it gradual for you when you went, I want to change, like I must change this at some point? Or was it like, was there a incident or a point where you're like, I can't go on like this anymore?
The tolerance was gradual. People just don't realize, because the thing is, your body gets used to it. So for that 20-minute buzz that you get from alcohol, some people might only need a glass of wine or a pint of beer or half a lager, and they get that buzz. But the thing is, for that buzz, it takes 2 to 3 hours of down for your body to detoxify and get rid of those. It takes 2 to 3 hours. So for every drink you have 2 to 3 hours of down. You can never get back to that buzz. So what you do is you're trying to chase that buzz all the time. So you have one drink, which affects your logical thinking, which is the prefrontal cortex at the front of your brain. Your logic goes out the window. That's why I could never moderate. And people, you can't moderate because your executive functions are just distorted. So you have one, and then you think, and especially if you've got a mate going, oh, go on, have another one. A couple of glasses of wine is nothing, or a couple of beers, or a couple of gin and tonics, whatever your thing is. And then before you know it, your tolerance is getting higher and higher, and you're chasing that buzz. So, yeah, I can't remember what your original question was now.
Yeah, that's all right. I was then saying, was there a moment when you decided that this had to change or stop? Was there something that went wrong, or was it like a gradual realization that this is actually a real issue? Because you weren't, I just want to say, you weren't an alcoholic. You knew, like we talked about this before we started, like there's this thing where everyone knows if you're an alcoholic and you're like drinking at 10 a.m. in the morning, that's a big problem. Yeah. And if you're not an alcoholic, then it's okay, right? That's like what most people are thinking. But there's this middle ground that's not talked about.
Yeah, grey area drinking. It's a big thing. An alcoholic, it's like in the methodology that we use, we don't use the word alcoholic anymore. It's alcohol use disorder. And when does it become a problem? Everybody's different. Everybody's physiology is different. Somebody might be drinking 2 glasses of wine and still have an issue, and somebody might be drinking 3 bottles of wine a night and have an issue. That's where the grey area is, And for me, I think the tolerance built up to such a point where I needed at least a bottle of wine to get that sort of feeling. The buzz was there, but I just needed that chill out feeling. And I think the point for me was I tried to moderate for such a long time. But the thing is, when your mind is consumed with alcohol, your thoughts are consumed with alcohol, as in me coming home from work, I can have my drink. And interestingly, Rob, this is another thing, and I talk about this on my program. When I became aware, a lot of people are not aware of this, but if you're a drinker for relaxation or stress, just think when you're going to grab your glass or your bottle, just be aware of your thoughts and feelings then, because often you find you're chilling out when you get your bottle of wine and when you get your glass or whatever drink you're getting. You start to unwind then, even before you've poured it, even before you put it to your mouth, because your subconscious mind is going, yeah, I'm going to get my fix. But it's actually knowing that you're going to get that fix, not actually having the substance, which is fascinating. And my program goes into the sort of neuro side of things and the science side. And that's why it works, because it wasn't until I actually started retraining my thoughts and becoming aware of what I considered alcohol to be and where my thoughts derived from. And he said, when did I, get to the point where it was an issue? It was when I got behind the wheel. I'd had half a bottle of wine, or 2 big glasses of wine. Sainsbury's was probably a mile up the road. I'd had a particularly bad day, and I just thought, you know what, sod it. And I got in the car, and thankfully I'm in the country and it's not a busy place to get to the supermarket. That was a big no for me. I was like, what the heck are you doing, Carol? This is just getting beyond ridiculous now. And then shortly after that, my son, he was, I can't remember how old he was, probably about 18, maybe 17. And he finds he gets quite anxious when he goes out, and he's extremely forgetful. So he wanted to go and see a friend in Birmingham. So we sorted out a train ticket for him. He did it all and we just supported him. And then he wanted to stay overnight. I was having kittens because it was the first time he'd gone. What, unknowing to us, it was a bank holiday weekend. And they were on the bank holiday Monday, the train stopped. And he came to the train station. He'd missed his last train, and there was only a bus service to Peterborough. Now his dad still lives in the village, and I live in the village with Clive. We're sort of fairly close, and me and his dad have an okay relationship. And Nathan rang me up and said, "Mum, I'm stuck. There's no trains. I don't know what to do." He wasn't upset, but my mum instinct was get in the car and drive, an hour and a half to Birmingham. I hate night driving anyway, but I'd had probably best part of a bottle of wine. So he rang his dad, and his dad went and picked him up. It wasn't an issue, but it was that. And I think I got up probably 2 or 3 days later after I'd processed everything. I just thought, that's it. I've done. And that was 31st of October, 2019. And after 2 or 3 days of not drinking, all these cravings were coming up. And I just decided we've all Googled, am I an alcoholic? Everybody, who thinks they've got a drink problem, have done that. And like you said, because you're not drinking in the morning, you think you're fine, but you're not. Even if you're a nighttime drinker, I've got a client now that only drank in a window of an hour and a half at 9 o'clock till 10:30. And had been doing that, and it was really affecting their life, So it doesn't matter. But yeah, I then found Annie Grace, who's an American lady, and that's who I did my coaching with, my coach training with. And it's called This Naked Mind, and I read her book, This Naked Mind, and also William Porter, Alcohol Explained. I'm a massive science geek. I love how the brain works and what alcohol does to your body. And I read those books, and I did Annie as a free alcohol experiment, which is 30 days, a bit like Dry January. And you get a video and a short email every day, and there's like a little community. So I did that, and then I went on to do something very similar to my 90-day program, where you dig a little bit deeper. The 30 days is just dipping your toe in, really. And I managed to stay alcohol-free for those 30 days. And then I went on to do something similar to my 90-day program. And then I just took it month by month. And yeah, I'm coming up to 1,000 days soon.
Wow.
I've got an app. I would encourage people to get an app. It's really good. They have little communities as well. And there was no way on this earth that I thought that I could get to even a month alcohol-free. I'd done dry January and sober October, but I'd white-knuckled it, and that's what a lot of people do. They use willpower. But willpower is like a muscle. It fatigues. So we call it decision fatigue in my sort of industry. So if you've been making decisions all day, like me, a stressful job, I had a ton of decisions to make. Even the decisions of getting up, what to wear, what to have for breakfast, what to have for lunch, what to have tea, sort the kids out. All these decisions we're making all day. By the time it comes to tea time, you've got no willpower. There's nothing left. It's like a battery, and that's why you give in. That's why you can't say no.
Yeah, there's a great book called Willpower Doesn't Work. Have you read that book?
No, I haven't. No.
I mean, basically, the title sums up what you just said. And it's the same with
Yeah.
eating. It's the same with so many things, isn't it? That we try and
Yeah.
white knuckle it with changing your habits with
Yeah.
food. You know, some people do an extreme diet or they try and cut out alcohol. Like loads of the
Yeah.
people we work with, again, very busy, stressful mums with busy jobs, aging parents who need to look after children with problems that they need to help with. And again, it gets to the end of the day and they will turn to food or turn to drink. So
Yeah.
you've obviously changed that now. Like,
Mm.
what has changed in terms of the rest of your life then since you made that change with alcohol?
Wow. How long have you got?
Give us like the top 3 to 5 like
It is
things.
amazing. I just get up with so much energy. I just wake up now. I've always been sort of to bed at 10 o'clock. I'm not an owl. So I'll wake up normally at about 5:30, 6 o'clock. I'll get up. I have some me time. So I'll sit at my kitchen table and I do spiritual reading or I do a bit of meditation. I was doing yoga, but me and Fitness Rob, that's why we need to get together, because being beasted for 13 years in the army, I have a bit of aversion sometimes, thinking, oh no, exercise.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a routine which I never had before. I was always, I'll start on Monday. Yeah, I'll start on Monday. I mean, I turned to sugar when I finished with alcohol. I had a massive sugar issue. And I was always proud of the fact that I wasn't a chocolate head or anything, but it was obviously the wine that was satisfying that craving for me.
Yeah.
And it took me about a year to get using again the same framework that we use with the mindset. I got on top of the sugar because it can work for anything, any addiction, drugs, sugar, even exercise, gambling, whatever. And I became vegan. I just decided I got quite high cholesterol, which is a family thing, really. And all my mum's sisters have it. And they're all on medication. And the doctor wanted to put me on statins and was like, no way are you putting me on. I don't like taking pills, full stop. And I was pre-diabetic as well, because I've just been, pushing so much sugar down my neck for the last year. So I became vegan and my cholesterol came right down. And yeah, I've lost probably nearly 3 stone really in the last, I would say, I don't know, 18 months.
Wow.
So yeah, again, I was going through the menopause. This was while I was drinking, but it interrupts all your hormone patterns, alcohol. I would get continually hot flush after hot flush after hot flush in the evenings with my fan out, thinking, and it was the alcohol that was the issue. Plus, when you've been drinking alcohol, I was just like a carb fiend. I was like, chips, bread, toast, whatever, pizza. It just completely messes you up, and it just messes your liver up. I mean, it can take up to 30 days to reset your liver. There's something called acetaldehyde, which is a byproduct of the alcohol, which is actually more harmful to your liver than the actual alcohol itself. And if that sits in your liver too long, some people can process it really quickly. That's a precursor to cancer. So it has lots of cell changes. So, it's a class 1 carcinogen. It causes cancer, especially the throat, larynx, mouth, esophagus, colon, liver. I mean, it's ethanol at the end of the day, and it's part of what we put in our petrol tank.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about the sanitizer that we're using, it's pure alcohol, and that's all it is. They just put a ton of additives, and people say, oh, it's good for you because it's got grapes in it. Yeah. What the media don't tell you is to get the actual antioxidant from the grapes, you have to drink, listen to this, 500 litres of wine, red wine, to get that benefit.
The media has a lot to answer for, doesn't it? I think there's that like one glass of wine a night's good for your health thing.
Rubbish.
What do you have to say for that one? Because I always...
We are soaked in a culture of it's cool to drink. It's, that we romanticize it. We use it to celebrate with. It's like we can't have a good time unless we've got a drink in our hand. I still go down the pub My hubby, his drinking got worse, but he's fine now. You know, there's so many alcohol-free options out there now. And because of COVID, obviously I wasn't drinking, not being down the pub. We started going down the pub the last 2 or 3 months. And people will say to me, "You're still on the wagon then, Carol?" I'm like, "Yep." And I'm sat there with my cup of tea, or I'm sat there with my, they've got some alcohol-free Thatcher's cider in, which is this, like the Guinness, the alcohol-free Guinness is amazing. I'm not a massive stout person. There's like no secco, which is like a prosecco for these celebratory times. My daughter got married in July. I took my no secco along. I just do not miss alcohol one iota, not at all. I mean, I went to a conference and there was these big bottles of water on the table and somebody was pouring it and I could hear the glug, 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 glug. And for 1 nanosecond, I thought, wine. But my mindset through Annie Grace and the program that I use is just completely turned it on its head. That desire is not there. And people white knuckle it for years and years and years. And it's really sad because they don't have to, because you can dig in. There's always a trigger, Rob. My trigger was my son. Sometimes you have, you know, it has to be a real trauma that happens in your life. And, you know, there's a lot of stuff to deal with. But sometimes it can just become habitual. And they've actually shown, we've actually seen, as part of my course, it's called neurogenesis, new neurons being made. So if you think about your subconscious, what happens is that voice in your head, your subconscious gets that, well, let me backtrack a bit. When you have a drink, you get a massive, massive dopamine rush, and it's an artificial dopamine rush. So if you exercise, the natural thing for the body is to get that dopamine high, isn't it? And that's why people can get hooked on it. The same with, you know, if you're going out in nature and you're smelling a nice flower, you get that dopamine high. If you're eating a food like raspberries or fruit or having something, you get that dopamine rush. Alcohol intensifies that massively. And that releases a lot of, your body always needs to level up, as you know, it's homeostasis. So your body releases a lot of other chemicals to counteract it. And it's the only substance that's a stimulant and a depressant. So the alcohol comes in, dopamine goes up, the body thinks, whoa, that's a toxin, I need to get rid of that. So you get lots of it's called dynorphin release to bring you back into a level playing field. And it's just crazy the way your body is like, it's in fight or flight most of the time. It just stresses, the toxin just stresses your body out. And that's why you just can't lose weight, because your metabolism's all over the place. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? You know, it's just mental, and people just don't realize it. And that's what we're talking about. The media, they romanticize alcohol. I mean, I remember my son being 18 and I took him down to the local pub, and and he's not a drinker, he doesn't really like alcohol at all, thank goodness. And they were all banging on the table like, get him a drink, get him a drink, get him a drink. And I said to Nathan, do you want a drink, darling? He went, well, what do you think, Mum? I said, it's entirely up to you, sweetheart, what do you want? He said, what did you have? And I said, well, I had a cider. And I'm thinking that's probably the most palatable thing if he wants to drink. So I got half. Everybody in the pub, well, I'll get him a pint. I got him half. And do you know what? I just saw his eyes glaze over halfway through that pint. And you know, bless him, he stayed on water for the rest of the night because it really affected him. I saw his pupils go big. He was talking to somebody, he was slurring his words. And that was only halfway through half a pint. You know, and that's the thing in society. You can't be fun if you don't have a drink. You can't relax if you don't have a drink. You can't go on holiday and have a fun time. You know, we went fully inclusive, and I remember drinking so much in the afternoon. I didn't want to go out in the evening, and it was an awful holiday. I didn't enjoy it at all because I was just out for the count in the afternoons. And you pay all that money to go fully inclusive. I mean, it's madness. absolute madness.
Do you think you were missing like big chunks of life then through that period? Like not really
Yeah,
being present for them?
absolutely. And that's the thing I feel really, and I've had to deal with all that regret. And when you do stop drinking, it's automatic to beat yourself up, but you don't be ashamed. It's an addictive substance. It is not your fault that you're stuck in this cycle. And that's what I tell the mums that I work with. It's not your fault. You just need to retrain and just step back and look at what you're doing, become aware of it. And I missed out on my kids. I mean, my first husband always wanted to go out. We're not that far from the coast. He wanted to go out, and go and get fish and chips. I'd just be knackered all the time. Plus, I had like the housework to catch up with. But all I would do is that he'd go out with the kids for the day, and I'd just crawl to bed. And I'd just miss out on them. I just couldn't wait to get them to bed, read them a story, and get down for my glass of wine in the evenings. And the same as they've got older, and they live with, well, Lucy did till she went to uni, and they live with me and my second husband. And now Nathan keeps himself in his room. He's a massive gamer. A lot of his friends are in America, so he sleeps during the day and he's often up at night. He's at college. He's just finishing college now. And I wouldn't see him for days on end. But now I take time. To go in and sit on his couch because we've knocked 2 bedrooms through, so he's got his own little space. And we'll go out for lunch. And my daughter lives about 40 minutes away. We'll meet up for lunch. And I'm catching up on all those times that we didn't have. Yeah, I used to drop them off at school. I used to pick them up from school. I'd be there for them mum. I love my kids and my kids love me. I've got no issues with that. But as mums, we can really beat ourselves up big time because we think we've not done right by them. But our kids love us, and now I'm just making up for that. Yeah. And same with any relationship, whether it's with your husband, whether it's with, your partner, your family, whoever. My relationships are so much deeper, so much more meaningful. You're saying about the benefits. There's just like old hobbies. I'm a massive steam train head. I have actually
your
heard
Instagram.
I'm massive on trains. That comes from my old geography teacher. But yeah, picking up hobbies like that. I have to be there at 5 o'clock in the morning to help the fireman put the fire in and clean the engine and do all the jobs. There's no way on earth I could have done that. Getting up at like 4 o'clock to get ready, get all my kits sorted, and get out the door for like 4:45 to be there. But that is my dopamine hit now. And me and my hubby, the money you save, good grief. I mean, the fraction of the cost you pay on my 90-day program to what you save in alcohol, I have saved in 2.5 years, or not even quite 2.5 years, 13 grand, over 13 grand, nearly 14. The app that I got sort of tops everything up. And I think I've saved 16 weeks of my time that I would have been spent sat on the sofa,
Wow.
chugging wine. It's mad.
And 13 grand in that short space of time, you could go on like take
Yeah.
your family on a dream holiday. You could,
Absolutely.
save for a deposit on your children's house. Like there's so many things that could have been to what
Massive.
you can do now.
Yeah. I mean, it was probably a minimum of 15 quid. I worked it out a day I was spending on alcohol, but that doesn't count all the takeaways that you get, the extras down the pub, the food you get in, the taxis home if you're out. Save tons of money.
So tell us a bit more about your program then. Like, obviously you can't give it all away because in 90 days you cover a lot, but like, who's it for then, and what kind of results can they get?
Yeah. It is, like you said, it's 90 days. We start out with what's your why, really. And I think that is where you it's one-to-one at the minute. I've only got 9 spaces left, actually, because after these 9 spaces are filled, it's going to be a group coaching program, and you won't get any one-on-one with me at the minute. So I'm on tap on this 90-day program at the moment. So we work together about what's your why. So we look at the reasons you drink, and then we explore that a little bit deeper, see where it started, and untangle all the mess, because often it is a trigger. Like I said with my son, there's often a switch. So we look at that, and then we look at how to deal with things like cravings, how to deal with social situations. We talk about sleep. We talk about even alcohol and sex. We talk about mindfulness, gratitude. There's an absolute ton of stuff, and it's bespoke as well. So when you sign up for my program, we do what's called a deep dive. So we'll do a 90-minute Zoom call and find out what you actually want. And then what I'll do is the program's a program. You get a video from me every day and an email. And then we meet once a week, and that's where the bespoke bit comes in. I'm on WhatsApp, so you can catch me on WhatsApp like 8 a.m. till 9 p.m. at night. So you've got access to me. You've got access to my mastermind, which has got a load of resources in there. There's just loads of love and loads of support. And I think that's what you need for me for the first 30 days, or even 9. I would say for me, the switch, it clicked at 90 days for me. And that's why my 90-day program is 90 days, because you get all the information that you need and the skills that you need to control alcohol. It's up to you after the 90 days, but you have to come to me wanting to stop drinking. I don't coach people that are still drinking. That may be something I'll look to in the future. But at the moment, you come to me wanting to stop. Yeah, we go through your why. We look at the neuroscience of things and why is that you can't say no. We look at, we dig into that big time. And I think for me, once you understand why you're doing what you're doing, that's the battle. You've sorted it, because that's the crux of it all at the end of the day. When you can recognize that craving come in and rewind back and think, oh, what triggered me just there? And then you can sit with that. Because thoughts are things, Dan, and I'm sure you know, if you've gone into psychology, thoughts are just things. It's what we do with those thoughts and the actions we put into those thoughts. So when that thought comes in, I want to drink, we look at and we talk about it. People look, WhatsApp me, Carol, I'm triggered. Okay, let's talk about it. What's gone on today? What's happened? And then we play the tape forward. Okay, so let's say you're going to have that glass of wine. Where's that going to take you? What's going to happen? And then we talk through what will happen if. And once people realise, if they move forward with that, the consequences, and I give them science to back it up as to, well, this is the reason why you're feeling like you're feeling. It's just a phenomenal change. Phenomenal. Yeah.
But they get like a strategy to become alcohol, to be able to control alcohol, right? With you, work one-to-one with you to get that. And what kind of results have people seen on the program so far?
Great. I mean, my client, absolutely. It's a new program I started. The client that I've got is 5 weeks alcohol-free, has not been alcohol-free for many, many, many years, and just got to the point where they decided, that was it. They'd had enough. It was affecting their life too much. But yeah, I mean, Annie Grace and her methodology that I use has seen over 300,000 people go through the program, and they're just digging all the stats up now. But it's just a great success, just an absolute great success. So you will come to me, you'll decide you want to drink, you don't want to drink, and there's a big fear around that, Rob, and it's a massive, massive step. First, to acknowledge that you've got an issue, and secondly, to actually ask for help. And that's where my community comes in. I've got ladies that join my private Facebook that are still drinking, and they can tap into the resources. I hop on once a week, do a live, talk about whatever subject they want to talk about. And that community is really important. And that's what really held me together for those first 2 or 3 months, was realizing, listening to other people's stories, realizing that I wasn't the only one. It's not a shameful thing to have an issue with alcohol. There's millions of people that have an issue with alcohol, that think it's quite normal to drink a bottle of wine a night. No, it's not for your health. If you want to live longevity, I mean, I want to be around for my grandkids. My daughter got married last year. I'm hoping grandkids are going to come. I'm 58 this year, and I'm thinking, well, I'm telling myself already, I'm living till I'm 100. I am. I've got a lot of things to do, Rob, a lot of things to do. And I am passionate about helping women, especially mums at this time, change their relationship with alcohol, because it is a massive, once that big domino of alcohol is out the way, everything else falls into place, It really does.
Yeah, and like we've talked about before, so some people that I work with, like, we do a very similar process around food, but if you're drinking that regularly, it's almost impossible to lose weight because of the calories from the alcohol, and then all the food you eat, and how it disrupts your sleep, how it exacerbates menopause symptoms. So it unlocks everything, as you said. But I thought it was very interesting, you said that there's a lot of fear around it, and I think we feel like we should be able to fix this ourselves. But I guess the thing we always say to people is, like, if you haven't been able to do it up to this point, you're probably not going to figure it out on your own, as much as that's, and it's, as you said, it's not anyone's fault. It's just very difficult to solve these things on their own. So the last question I wanted to ask you was, like, what would you say to any woman that's listening to this who's kind of struggling to moderate alcohol? They're trying to reduce it, or they've stopped it for periods of time. They might have done dry January, but it keeps coming back in. Like, what would you say to someone in that situation?
I would say don't wait for rock bottom. I mean, my rock bottom was just, a rock bottom doesn't mean to say that you lose your house, you lose your family, you lose your kids. A rock bottom for me was getting behind the wheel. Everybody's rock bottom's different, but don't wait for that. And yeah, there is a fear, but you see, your subconscious keeps you in that fear, because that's where the mindset work begins with me in my program, is that alcohol monster whispers in your ear. You're going to be boring without alcohol. You're not going to be able to have fun. You're not going to get on with your husband, or your husband's your drinking buddy. You're not going to be good in the bedroom without booze. There's like all these faults, and there's stories we've built around alcohol, because that's what we do. We have to fill the gaps in. So we have to tell ourselves that we can't do things unless we have alcohol as part of, our lives. And that fear, and it is, and I put at the bottom, I think it's at the bottom of my website, and a few other, when I post on Instagram, action eliminates fear. And it is so true, that tiny step. And that's why, like me with the discovery call, it's really hard for people to get over that hurdle. And a discovery call with me is, I've actually turned a lady away a couple of weeks ago, because she was so dependent on alcohol, and she'd been drinking heavily for such a long time. She needed to see her GP. So if any of your ladies listening, are frightened of the withdrawal symptoms, if you're emotionally dependent, which is 90% of the people, it's okay. I can deal with that. We can do some coaching around that. But I'm not a medical professional. And there's only probably about 10% of people that have got an actual physical addiction to alcohol. That is not me. I deal with people who use it for, to suppress emotions, or just habitual. So take the step, because it will only get worse, and it does, whether it's a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. And just think of, like with your program, Rob, they want to lose weight. It massively affects your nervous system. Your metabolism's all over, your adrenal glands are all over the place. And it's because whether you're just binging on a Friday night or a Saturday night, it's your liver and your body is still going to process all that. And the thing it does is it processes the toxin before it processes any carbohydrates or any fats.
Yeah.
So you are just pushing yourself right back to square one, even with 1 glass or 2 glasses of wine. But you can do it, and it's all about mindset, Rob. And get on a discovery call with me. Let's chat. If it's not for you and I don't feel you're a good fit for my program, then I can signpost you elsewhere. I've got lots of friends and lots of other coaches that have got lots of other experience in lots of other areas. You know, people use this framework for eating disorders and all sorts, cigarettes and things. So just do it. Just do it, because life on the other side of the bottle is amazing.
So where can people go if they do want to find out more about what you do, if they do want to book that discovery call to have a chat, see if you can help them? Where should people go to do that?
Well, I'm on Instagram at Warrior Mum Coaching, so you can DM me. You can go to my website, which is warriormumcoaching.com, and I've got a very simple form for you to fill in. And then you can just, it's got a box with a message. You can just put me a message in there. And what I'll do is I'll get back to you and we'll just book a Zoom call, have a very informal chat. You know, ladies just tell me what it is what action they want to take, where they want to be, and we look at where you want to be, because that's what coaching is all about. You know, yeah, we do go into some past stuff and the triggers of alcohol, but we look ahead and we look at where we can get you. And in 90 days, you can make massive strides. And then after 90 days, I've got a membership program. If you still want accountability after that, then I'm still available on WhatsApp. So yeah, that's something else that, you know, don't do 90-day program and then go bye-bye. That's not how it works. If you feel you still want accountability and you still want some support, then yeah, I'm there for you.
Amazing. We'll go and check out Carol. Go to warriormumcoaching.com. I'll drop some of the links into the show notes. But Carol, thank you so much for joining me today. Your story's been absolutely fascinating and inspiring to hear as well.
Just one thing I didn't say, actually, Rob.
Go for it.
The ladies that are drinking, I've got my private Facebook page. If they go onto Instagram and follow the link in my bio, there's my community there. So for ladies that don't feel like they can just finish just yet and they want a little bit, like people want to put it off, but just don't. But follow the link in my bio. Join my community. You can get some support in there. But people that are really seriously about, that's it, I'm sick and tired, I've been sick and tired and I've had enough, then yeah, discovery calls for you.
Awesome. As I said, we'll drop the links in the bio. So either Warrior Mum Coaching Instagram, join the Facebook group if you just want to dip your toe in the water, or go to warriormumcoaching.com. That's right, isn't it? To go and book a discovery call and have a chat about solving this once and for all.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Carol. I really appreciate your
welcome.
time. Thanks for sharing your story.
Worries. No problem. It's been a pleasure.
We'll catch up soon to talk about the exercise, because
yes, definitely. I do
Carol.
need it. Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Rob.
Have a great rest of your day. I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, you too. Take care. Bye.
Bye.